Hello everyone! Welcome back to Story Reckless. It's just me tonight. I am figuring out volume here and levels of audio things. Tonight I'm going to be playing The Flicker and the Fade, which is a storytelling game by Nyessa about the life cycle of a constellation. I've never played this before. I have only read through the rules a couple times, and I'm really excited to do a solo storytelling game. It's vaguely in the vein of For the Queen, if you were here for the times we've played that as a small group. But I'm all set up here. I've got a piece of paper. I've got some dice, a pencil, and a relatively large eraser that, there we go, everything's on screen. I also have a slightly in the way setup, but this is what I could do with the time that I had and the materials available to me, and I think it will work out just fine. For those of you in chat, give me a heads up about volume of various things. Things look good on my end, but I can't hear what you're hearing. So if that becomes an issue at any point, please do tell me. But let's get started here. I'm going to read the introduction here aloud. The Flicker and the Fade, an elegy for starlight, is a solo game about entropy, the death of stars, and the fragile immortality of stories. You will create a constellation and play through the gradual fading of its stars. Okay. So this is our sky, the piece of paper, and the dice are going to establish what our constellation, the shape of our constellation, and the brightness of each individual star within it. So I am going to roll here, and we will find out the shape of our constellation. Woo! Okay. So the D12 rolled all the way off the sheet of paper, which I believe means that it's just somewhere else out there in the sky. Yes. Okay, so from here, we look at the number on each die, and that determines the brightness of the star. A low number is a mere pinprick of light, while a high number is a sun that blazes and glitters in the heavens. Let's see, do we have any ones? We do indeed. The D4 rolled a 1, so that is just going to be a dot. Does that show up at all? Absolutely not. Okay. There we go. And then we do also have a 2, and we draw 2 rays for this one. So we're going to go dot and 1, 2. Next highest, we've got 2 6s. We'll do this one over here. One, 2, 3. Oh boy, we're gonna get exciting with the rays here. 4, 5, and 6. There's 6 on the D6. And then 7, I believe we round up if we have an uneven number. Indeed. So this will go for 8. 7 and 8. And then we have 16 on the d20. My goodness. Okay. This one is going to be absolutely enormous. Okay. Oh man. That's quite a variety. I'm pleased with that. Okay, so we now have each star on our in our constellation. Let's see here. Oh, interesting. As I draw each star, remove the die and set them aside. These are our dying stars. Okay, so we have our dying stars over in this direction. Can we put them on the page, maybe a little bit there. And then we connect them with lines to form a picture. So we need to decide now what creature this is. What creature? What object? We've got roughly like vaguely a Y shape. Could work with that. And also this one is just big and beautiful and gorgeous. I wonder if that could be like the focal point somehow. I'm also intrigued by these two tiny ones here. What other, like, what are some constellations? I mean, they tend to be people or creatures. And some of them are extremely abstract, at least as far as I can tell. Like, if I remember correctly, Cassiopeia is essentially a W shape, and that's supposed to be her throne, perhaps? It's been a while since I've done my Greek mythology. What if... I'm trying to think if there are any, like, tools that are roughly Y-shaped. Could go with a dowsing rod. That might be interesting. If we have something of a dowsing rod for... is this showing up? Barely. I want to be able to distinguish both on screen and for myself between the stars themselves and the rays or the constellation. Let's try this. If we have a celestial dowsing rod here, I wonder what it is we've been dowsing for. Well, that's part of what this game is about. At a time far in the past, before you made your journey to the skies, you were once a mythic figure in the world that now looks up at you. What story do the mortals tell of you? Yes, I think that we were a tool, a dowsing rod of some great hero, of some great person, a seeker. I mean, dowsing is all about finding generally water, but you can I'm sure search for other things too. Maybe we were once the instrument of the god of fortune, or foreknowledge, and they used us to determine what course the gods should take. Ooh. Yeah. Ooh, okay. Actually, there are a whole slew of questions. I'm going to read all these questions because they're all interrelated. They're all going to be playing into this here. Um, what story do the mortals tell of you? How does the image in your constellation represent who you once were, and what mortals remember you for? Did you find your way to the sky on your own, or were you placed there by other beings more powerful than yourself? Is your place in the sky an honor that you earned, or a punishment that was inflicted upon you? Yeah, okay, so we were the dowsing rod of the god of fate, of fortune, of divination. Um, and we are remembered specifically because we were, I'm going to say, stolen or taken from this god, because this god had too much knowledge, too much power over and influence over the other gods. And so the other gods conspired to steal us from them and threw us up into the sky in order to keep us away from our creator. And we have been there ever since. And there are legends of people being like visited by us? Not sure. We are an inanimate object, at least theoretically. But people can like use our image to follow us to fortune, follow us to their destiny, maybe. There have been stories of people who have followed our constellation to some great deed or some great place and have become famous because of that. So it's not an honor to be in the sky necessarily, or it was a punishment that was inflicted upon our god, but not us necessarily. We were just, byproduct. Okay. Whatever your life below may have been, you have lived as a constellation for generations uncounted, lighting up the night sky. You have guided the paths of mortal travelers far below, and you have guided their fates as you travel your own circumscribed path through the heavens. You are immortal, immutable, invulnerable. Or so you once believed. But now, your stars are going out. I kind of want to name the big guy here. I feel like that would be significant in terms of the shape and weight of this dowsing rod. I want to name for our big guy here. It doesn't necessarily say that we do that. I'm just being myself and have to flesh out the world as much as absolutely possible. Let's go with something. Koanth. Just put that on there, right? Oh, you can't read that at all. That's way too tiny. How's that? Oh, that's better. We could get even bigger, though. My handwriting is tiny and tidy, which has both advantages and disadvantages. Big Claire. There we go. That's readable. So our big star is Coanth. Okay. So we have all of our dying stars right here. We roll the smallest die. And if it lands on a number higher than the number of rays in the dimmest remaining star of your constellation, that star flickers out. Well, it will. We rolled a 1, or does a number higher? Okay. Well, we rolled a 1 again. What does that mean? Oh, okay. If it lands on a lower number, erase that number of rays from the dimmest star. Okay, so our littlest boy is going away. He's too far away. And that frankly does not change the constellation much at all. We just kind of don't take that little jig jog from this medium-sized one out to our now smallest one. So we just kind of go like that, and not much has changed. Okay, and so now this D4 is no longer a dying star, but instead a dead star. So we place it in another pile. Ooh, and then there are questions about each star individually. With each star that flickers out, ask, how did your star die? How did you fail to preserve it? How has the image of your constellation changed? Is it an altered version of what it was before, or does it now depict something different? How have the stories that mortals tell about you changed? And what still remains of who you once were? So this is less far, far away. At one point in time, a blazing ball of light died, and more the mythology of this star has perished in some manner, and it is, at least according to the question here, our fault, us as the constellation. I wonder, this was the smallest, it was also in the center, and very close to another star. I wonder if we thought it unnecessary. If this tiniest of stars was almost incidental to us as a dowsing rod. And in fact, now that it is gone, we have a more symmetrical and I'm going to say aesthetically cohesive shape, more dowsing rod-like. I wonder if it was less that we failed to preserve it and instead actively chose to let it fade. How have the stories that mortals tell about you changed? Again, I don't know that they have. This is very similar. And there hasn't been... Yeah, we just lost our smallest. That's all. Okay, so now we do it again with the D6. The D6 was this one, over here on the far end. 3. So we take half of our rays away. You know, this is a solo storytelling game, but frankly, I think you could totally play it with a small group. I do enjoy the collaborative aspects that come from creative conversations with others. I think it's much more dynamic and rewarding than stuff that just one brain can come up with on their own. Okay, and then we put the D6 aside, and we just roll again, because we have not had a star flicker out. We have just had one dim itself. Oh, hold on, I did that. Okay. Moving forward. We always work from the dimmest star. We don't go to the star that was established by the die rolled. Okay, cool. That's fine. D8. So we're going for this center one here. Just one. We are dimming but not undimmed. This is going to change radically once this guy goes. That's for certain. And one of our D10s. 9. Okay, very, very gone. So, our second nexus point has vanished. This is going to change us pretty considerably. As there's no meeting in the center anymore. So we're going to have to completely redraw this. We lack centrality, we lack unity in the way that we did. Okay. New constellation. Keeping in mind that the stories that have been told about us for millennia are of a dowsing rod of a god of divinity, or god of divination. So we should keep that in mind as we find something else. I'm thinking of other common tools of divining the future. We have cards, we have entrails, we have stones or sticks. I think a scattering of like divining stones would be too on the nose, I guess. Other alternatives. Things that have been used as tools or representations of the divine. I mean, that's going to be extremely culturally and religion dependent. It's not really card shaped, unless the card is a triangle. I don't know of that. Unless, y'all, what if it's a D4? What if it's a... But that's chance, not fate, fortune, or future. Yeah, I'm gonna go with divining stones. So these are more... I guess just kind of in association with one another rather than showing something new, or like they come together to make up a single thing. Yes, that's true. But they are much more disparate. They are representing separate objects now as opposed to a single unified object. And this, I'm sure we can talk about things like even the loss of those who are insignificant seeming creates great change in the unity and functionality of the group at large. Ooh, and we let that first star die. Why did this one die? Is this some kind of sickness that is spreading through this constellation? Because we did not care for the first one, the one nearest it has started to disintegrate as well, and so we lose our concept of ourselves as a singular object. Yeah, it was like lack of care. But I think now that we've lost a second one and have completely changed the object that we represent, we're going to be a little bit more on the alert. We're going to take less. We're going to be less careless with ourselves. And the stories that people tell about us now that we are stones rather than a divining rod. I mean, still belonging to the deity of the future of divining. I mean, I imagine that this would probably intersect with how this culture thinks about fortune telling. That it is less about this manufactured item that has to be created by people, and more this is a collection of stones. One can find them lying on the ground. Perhaps this is more of a turn towards recognizing the natural world as having divinity, where perhaps before it was honoring the craft and the physical human making of something in order to discover the future. Which to me suggests that this culture is moving more towards more technologically. I hesitate to use the word proficient. But they have more technology than they did previously, and so there's now perhaps a concept of nature versus civilization where perhaps there wasn't previously. And they're starting to conceive of nature as being more connected to the divine. So, that was a major shift. We go now for our other D10. We're going for this little one over here on the outer edge. 9. Okay, yes. Very, very gone. Okay. Well, we have a triangle now, fully. Why did this star go? I feel like it wasn't carelessness this time. That this time... Ooh, okay. So the divining rod that we were originally was thrown into the stars to prevent the god of fortune from having more knowledge than the rest of the gods. We were taken away from them. Perhaps hello. Oh, Nathan's here. Oh. Do I roll dice to decide which stars are destroyed? Yes. So we're just working with a standard set here. I shouldn't separate them all too much. But yeah, we rolled the dice on the piece of paper to establish where the stars were, and the numbers on the dice correspond with the amount of rays that the stars have. And we are now passing through millennia as the constellation shrinks and deteriorates and changes. So we started out with a divining rod. Now we are at fortune-telling stones. We just had this little buddy over here die. And I think it's either because the gods who aren't the fortune-telling god still feel threatened because we are still up in the stars and guiding mortals now to their fortunes and to their fates, even though the god of fate themselves doesn't necessarily have access to us. And I think that the gods are like, we need to just destroy this entire concept or this entire assemblage of objects so that now mortals cannot have knowledge that we ourselves are denied. And they went for the outlier, like the guy in the back. I'm not sure. This little one who was outside the like structural integrity that the triangle provides. He was the weak one in the pack. And so it was easy for the gods to nab. I'm pretty content with that. Yeah, let's go with that. And then I think we don't use the D12 at all because that just completely rolled off of the sheet of paper when we started. Let me double check. Are stars that have escaped your bounds, yes. Okay, so I think we just roll the d20 now and then see what happens. 11. Okay, so that's another star entirely gone. It's just these two. Which means that this and this is also gone. And our d20 goes over here. Alright, so there's just two guys left. Coanth and this unnamed one over here. With 2 stars. I mean, certainly that is still a connection. I'm seeing a wand now. Which, while definitely still magical, is not at least like inherently associated with fortune telling. I wonder if the gods have accomplished their task. Yes, these stars are, or at least the most recent ones were destroyed by the gods. There were a couple here in the center. The first one just died because of neglect on our part, which was clearly a bad choice, but we didn't recognize this until later. But yeah, I think the gods may have accomplished their task at this point. We are no longer associated with prophecy, but we still are magical. And I wonder now if the stories that people tell about us are less about them following us to find their fate and more following to gain wisdom, knowledge, magical prowess. I like the idea of Koanth being the tip of the wand. This is where the magic happens, right here. Is there? And then we have one last question. Are you still who you were in your oldest stories? No. I think maybe even that the god that we belonged to originally has changed because of this. That their mythology has shifted from being a god of fortune and of prophecy to being one of kind of generalized magic and wisdom. That their very portfolio has changed because of the beliefs and stories that people tell about us, which has changed because we have diminished over the millennia. I think we still remember. Even when we were a divining rod, Koanth was still one of the main prongs. And it remains such here with the wand. Koanth remembers. Or at least dreams about it sometimes. Of finding the fate. Of being a tool for divination. And harboring information that even the gods did not have access to. And actually, that's the entire game. Yeah, because we did survive. There is a different question if all the stars have flickered out. Well, this is a lovely little activity. I don't know if I would play this by myself off stream, but I would absolutely play this with one or two or three other people. This is definitely a small group sort of storytelling game in my mind. But like, what an elegant idea for a little storytelling game of a constellation coming into and going out of a culture. I'm kind of thinking, like, do I play again? Do we have a 40-minute stream? I might kind of finish it up and say that we're going to have a really short stream tonight. I do want to give some credits out for this game. This was written by Nyessa. You can find them at nyessa.itch.io or on Twitter at Nyessa Gaming. I will put all of this information in the description for the VOD as well. And those are the credits there. This was just one person. Oh, I do want to say where I found this game, though, because I had never heard of this. A while back, Dale Kingsmill on YouTube did a video on TTRPGs that aren't 5e, which I'm a big fan of. And this is one that she mentioned as being one of her favorites, and I see why. It's just lovely and small and a good time. Um, I've also been excited about learning about more storytelling games as opposed to tabletop role-playing games. Stuff like For the Queen, which I keep coming back to because that was my first one. But there are a couple of others that I would be interested in playing at some point when we have another off week like this. Next week the whole gang will be back except for me. I will be alone in the not alone. I'll be in the mountains, but they're going to start the next chapter of Descent into Avernus, and we'll go into the Bleeding Citadel. I'm very excited. I will be absolutely watching that VOD if it's okay for me to do so, because I know that there are sometimes secrets that are on screen for you all. But yeah, next Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Pacific, we'll be doing that. And thanks for joining me for a sweet and short little session tonight. I'll see you all in a couple weeks. Goodbye. See what we do then.